Hello! If you don't have a clue what to do in Game Week 29, then you've come to the right place. Let me help. Chip season can be a stressful time for all FPL managers, especially if you're more of a casual player and you don't plan. I have a lot of friends currently in my league that do not have a clue what is coming. You'd be shocked by the amount of FPL managers that don't know that there's another blank in Game Week 34. These are all things we need to take into consideration when planning what we're going to do for Game Week 29. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. If you have one free transfer saved up, then chances are you might have the free hit in 29, and then hopefully you still have your wild card and we can look at what you're going to do with that down the line. Just before we get into all of that, I just want to say there are a lot of FPL managers currently sat around, let's say 500k, and you guys are giving up on the game because essentially you think that you haven't got time to get within the top, let's say 100k before the end of the season. Going from 500k to the top 100k during chip season is so doable. You would be shocked by the amount of managers currently in the top 100k that have used all of their chips. That's how they get there. They get there early, they stay there, and then they drop off. There is usually a huge shift in the last 10 game weeks of the season. So don't give up on the game, keep planning. We'll get you a good rank, trust me. And as always, if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of March, maybe? And I am super active in the comments. So if you have any questions, make sure you put them down there and I will get back to you, I promise. So, looking into the free hit strategy, a lot of managers have currently saved up a lot of free transfers. Very smart, well played if you have. I currently have 3 myself and I can already field 10 players. But we actually put ourselves in quite a precarious position because it depends on if you still have your wildcard. So for example, I think I'm going to wildcard in Game Week 30. That kind of tempts me to play a really weak side in Game Week 29 and maybe only make 1 transfer. If you think about it, that way I'm not going to waste any transfers for when I wildcard in Game Week 30, which will give me a massive advantage going into the bench boost season and going into the free hit season. But of course, the temptation is to make as many transfers as possible in Game Week 29, make as strong a team as possible, and really attack those managers that haven't planned. So currently amongst the FPL community, there are 3 strategies floating about. There's free hit in 29 and wildcard in 31, free hit in 29 and wildcard in 34, or wildcard in 30 or 31 and free hit in 34. So personally, in my opinion, if you can avoid free hitting in 29, that is your best bet. Hear me out, I'll explain why. If you avoid free hitting, you gain a massive advantage on other FPL managers. So Game Week 33 is a double game week, and then Game Week 34 is a massive blank. Now, this is important because a lot of FPL managers still have their bench boost. In my opinion, the best strategy you can use right now is use your wildcard in 30, 31, 32, whenever you feel is the best game week for your fixtures. Set yourself up for an extremely strong bench, then use your bench boost in 33 for the double game week, so you could potentially have 15 double game week players, free hit in 34 to avoid the blanks, and then it's very likely that a lot of the teams that doubled in game week 33 are going to double again in game week 36. So you can hold on to a lot of those assets and really capitalise on those extra points. So a couple of the common questions I've had are, I've got 9 players available and I've got 1 free transfer. Should I use my free hit? My answer is going to be no. I think you make the 1 transfer, get 10 players on the pitch, and I think you're kind of good to go. The reason for that is clean sheets are so hard to come by this season, so most weeks, most of us are playing with 10 players anyway. Yes, of course, you know, you're essentially going to be playing with 9 players, but the fixtures aren't great in Game Week 29. If you're actually looking at the fixtures, there aren't many teams with a massive advantage over their opposition, other than maybe Nottingham Forest against Ipswich. But Ipswich at home defensively aren't too bad. And then you have Manchester City, Brighton. That's a pretty even matchup at the moment. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I have a screen here. I could look, but why would I do that? And then West Ham, Everton, both run a big resurgence. So again, not a huge swing either way. And then, of course, you have Wolves against Southampton. And everyone would have been like, Cunha in, Cunha in, Cunha in. But he obviously decided to lose his head and just... Oh! So I do think there's a little bit of wiggle room there for managers. I actually don't think it's going to be a high-scoring week. So if you can maybe have a 1-player deficit, I think you're okay. But if you are desperate to use your free hit, as I know some of you are for some reason, then I've built a draft. I've built many a draft. Let's take a look at it. I'll give you some alternatives. It's well within budget. It has some great options available. You can let me know what you think. So in goal, I'd probably go for Sells against Ipswich. Nottingham Forest are seriously solid defensively at the moment. Liam Delap does scare me a little bit. He does offer a lot going forward, but I like to think that they can keep a clean sheet. And I'm so confident in that I would double up on the Nottingham Forest defenders. And I'd probably look to bring in Aina as well, or Milenkovic if you prefer him, but I definitely think you can go for 2 Nottingham Forest assets. Just a caveat, we're going to play a 3-4-3. So for my second defender, I did have Gabriel. He has the second highest expected points for a defender this week, but he's doing my head in. I don't know about anyone else, but I've owned Gabriel for a long time. He's not even in the top 25 point scoring defenders over the last kind of 10 weeks. And Arsenal just keep conceding sloppy goals. I will not let anyone tell me that David Raya should not have saved that free kick. It's not in the corner. It's quite far out. David Raya's got little arms. I said it about a month ago. He did make up for it with a few brilliant saves, but Arsenal should have lost that game. If you look at the big chances, Arsenal got away with one, and that worries me. So I would probably swap him for Gvardiol. Now I know Man City's defence is as bad, and they're playing Brighton, but Gvardiol offers a bit more going forward, and he just always seems to get a goal or assist, even in the games where they concede like 2 goals. So I'd probably go with Gvardiol. And then, of course, the last defender in the back 3, I think I'll go with Ait-Nouri against Southampton. I don't actually think they keep a clean sheet. One thing I've noticed about Southampton is they somehow, quite frustratingly, always manage to have one big chance per game. Even if they're playing terribly, they always get like one really clear-cut chance. Whether they take that opportunity very consistently, you know, not so much, but they do get that opportunity. So I do think that Southampton could potentially score against Wolves. But Ait-Nouri going forward is too good to ignore against that Southampton defence. And you could argue he's going to have to step up with Matis Cunha being suspended. So in midfield, I really like the look of Jared Bowen against Everton. Obviously, we love a penalty taker in FPL. He has so many routes to points, and I think you'd be very silly not to bring him in, considering a lot of the other midfielders this week either don't have great fixtures, they're playing midweek in the Europa League or the Champions League, and they could be potential minute risks. So Jared Bowen for me, and then alongside him, I would have Bruno Fernandes. Could be suspect, seeing as Manchester United are so unreliable, but he has 2 10-pointers and a 9-pointer in his last 3 games. He keeps cropping up with goals and assists, and their fixtures aren't bad. I find Leicester a really weird club to watch in the Premier League this season. I don't know about anyone else, but they seem to be really in the game until they concede. And I know that sounds a bit silly, like everyone's in the game until they concede. But they'll be like equal, like even. They'll look decent. Other teams won't really dominate them. And then the second they concede, heads drop, they're done. Like they give up. And then all of a sudden it ends up being, you know, 3-4-0. I think Leicester could come away with something from that game, but I do think Bruno Fernandes individually will come away with something from that game. Now, this is a bit controversial, but I would have Brian and Mbeumo against Bournemouth. Bournemouth are flying. Look, it's not the best fixture in the world, but Brentford away from home are sort of cooking. Brian and Mbeumo offers a lot of routes to points again, and there aren't too many good alternatives in midfield. A lot of FPL tipsters are recommending Phil Foden, which, I mean, it's absolutely mental. He's not returned in 5 game weeks, and he's playing a Brighton side who have a pretty solid midfield. Could Phil Foden go and score 2 goals or get a goal and assist? Absolutely, 100%. But on a free hit, you don't want to pick players that are massively out of form. That's just not the way to go. It almost feels like they've put him in just because they've got so much budget to spare and they go, he's expensive, let's put him in. And it's ridiculous. In my opinion, Phil Foden is an avoid. 2 game weeks ago, he played like 17 minutes. So he's also a massive rotation risk. The last midfielder, I think it has to be Cliver. I did have Son, but I think with the Europa League game, Son is going to be a huge rotation risk. He didn't start against Bournemouth. Cliver offers a lot of routes to points again, And he is on absolute fire. He's playing so well. And he has a good fixture against Brentford, who do concede goals. So for me, Kluivert finishes that midfield. If you've not realised already, you are going to have a lot of budget left with this team. So there are a lot of tweaks that you can do. Like, for example, in one of my drafts, instead of Gvardiol at the back, I actually have Kirkez. But I think that would depend on if you decided to go with Kluivert or Foden. I wouldn't necessarily want more than 2 Bournemouth assets. That might give away one of the attackers that's on the horizon. Up top, of course, we have Erling Haaland. He comes back into the team after a long time out of everyone's squads. You know, Haaland's been a weird one this year. It's not so much him, it's more City. If you actually look at Haaland when he plays, more of on an eye test level, he requires a lot of chances to score. And when City aren't providing him with 3 clear-cut chances a game, he struggles. But with their upcoming fixtures, he is a no-brainer. Even if you're not free hitting, I think you need to look to buy him in the next few weeks. And then, of course, Chris Wood, 7.3 million. He is a bargain at that price. They're about to go into a good fixture run again. He's still returned a lot during their difficult fixture run. Absolute no-brainer player. He is on fire. I'd actually argue he is the second best Premier League asset this year. Obviously behind Mohamed Salah. You know, you could base it on points and say Cole Palmer's still got more points than him, but for the price point, Chris Wood has been the second best player in FPL this year. And then the last attacker I would probably look to have is a Van Ulsen. Bournemouth look brilliant going forward. He is now starting again. He's probably going to play at least 70 minutes. Otara came on against Spurs at the weekend, and honestly, he actually just looked awful. They looked so much worse once Van Ulsen went off. So I think the only reason they made the sub is because Van Ulsen's still coming back from injury, but by next week, Van Ulsen is going to be fully fit again. I think he plays at least 70, 75 minutes minimum and probably gets a return. Even if you're not free hitting again, he is a brilliant enabler. Look, we're all going to be tight on budget over the next few weeks because, let's be honest, most teams are going to have Salah, Haaland, Mateta or Chris Wood. Okay? And that requires a lot of budget. And then a lot of managers will still want one of the premium goalkeepers, such as Alisson, David Raya. You could argue Pickford. And then some people will die by players like Gabriel and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So budget's going to be tight. And a Van Ulsen is a fantastic enabler. In the same way that I would actually recommend for a transfer in, if you need a cheap enabler, and you're downgrading from someone like Cole Palmer, then someone like Minter could be a brilliant option. He has fantastic fixtures, and his minutes are so guaranteed at the moment. He's playing upwards of 80 minutes every single game. He's not the most consistent player in returns, but when he does, he normally gets a couple, so he's more of an explosive return sort of player. Anyway, I think I've waffled enough about free hit teams, what I would do, what I think you lot should look to do. As I mentioned before, if you have any questions or you're unsure about, you know, I've already wildcarded, I've only got my free hit left, I've got 8 players available, what should I do? Put it in the comments. I'm going to try to respond to as many as possible. On YouTube, I don't get too many anyway, so it's actually a good place to get hold of me. But if you've enjoyed the video, I have tried to keep it quite concise, a bit more laid back than usual, I think. Please smash that like button and subscribe. As I said, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of March, so if you could share the video with any of your mates that play FPL, that would be brilliant. I'm going to try to post weekly from now till the end of the season, and then I might just start like posting Football Manager videos or something. I don't know. If you want to see me play Football Manager, put it in the comments, because I'm not great, but it's amusing. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you later.